Night. So here, let me put this over here. I was trying to figure out how to share my screen uh in the lives from the phone because I actually do TikTok on the phone, but I can share the screen on FB and YT. But yeah, so I haven't gone live in quite a while, and thank you, Andy, for joining. I appreciate you. I haven't gone live in a while, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Of course, I am always super freaking busy. Uh, but another reason why I stopped going live, and it was kind of all of a sudden, was because when I would go live, and I get it, I understand it, I would get people that would come into the room and they would just talk about what the narcissist did to them. I would hear all of the war stories, all of the things that they did, how they were hurt. And I'm going to tell you, that matters. That matters. What you experience, what you went through will always matter. Okay. But there comes a time, at least in my journey, I can't speak for everybody else. There came a time where I just had to stop complaining. I had to just go ahead and take action. Hold on, let me just change my network right here. Give me 1 second because I'm already getting the notice that, oh, we having a little problem with your feed here. And there you go. So let's just go over to this network, which is a lot stronger. I apologize, but trying to get the damn thing done. So yeah, so what happened was I got it, especially with survivors. Many survivors, they get to the stage where shit, if anybody's going to listen, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to help people to understand what I went through. Especially when they first come out of the relationship, nobody believes them due to the smear campaign. They get, doubt from like their day ones. People are like, oh, I don't believe they're like that because the mask of the narcissist is something they've been practicing their whole life. It actually works. And I get it. When you come across a live or a group or anything where people are allowing you to share your story. Hey Mark, what's up? And Big Nico and Willow, and you're getting a chance to share your story. I definitely understand it. You got a lot of catching up to do. But there has to come a point in your healing journey where you have to not focus on the problem. You have to focus on the solution because what happens is we know what the problem is. Anybody that has gone through domestic narcissistic abuse have been treated like the black sheep of the family. We know what happens. We could actually sit down and compare notes. The only thing that actually changes is the face of the demon that's inflicting the abuse. So I had to find out very quickly that I couldn't focus on that anymore because it wasn't helping me heal. It wasn't. I was getting no place. I was still hyper vigilant. I couldn't sleep through the night because this person that I finally got out of my life, they were still in my mind. They were living in there rent free. They were controlling most of my decisions. They kept me not trusting myself. And then we come to the stage with the, forget the flying monkeys. It's the new supply. That's a lot for survivors to deal with. Hey, TJ Allen, GG, what's going on, Lynette? And Great Britain and Sophie and Diane, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Then we get to the point of the new supply. That just brings a whole different, at my favorite term, brings a whole different shit show into the picture. Because now you're definitely not trusting yourself. Now you're doubting yourself. You're doubting who you are. Done on purpose, of course. I'm not going to lie. They do this on purpose. It's part of their master plan. You can't get closure, but yet and still they're parading this person all over the place as if you never existed. But again, I wasn't healing. See, as long as I worried about what they were doing, how much focus am I putting on what I'm doing? What am I doing for me? Part of the thing that I've been talking about for the last 3 weeks, anybody that follows me, not just on my my social media or the community, on the radio station. A lot of what has been going on is we've been talking about trusting yourself again. Okay, domestic narcissistic abuse brings a lot of self-doubt into the picture. Okay, and you have to you have to come to the point where you admit, okay, I'm not running at 100%. Right now, the check engine light is on constantly. Okay, I don't know. Basically, I'm not my old self. I'm not the person that I was before I met this person. And that takes a lot of soul searching. But if you just sit back and you say to yourself, I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll figure it out next week. Oh, I'll just answer this text message. Well, what ultimately happens is you continually put your healing on hold. And as a survivor of this craziness, that is the worst thing I feel that you can do. See, at some point, you have to find the road back to yourself. And believe it or not, it's not behind you. See, the narcissist, the pain, the whole betrayal, all of that's behind you. That's why I came up with this. When I first started, this movement, that's why I came up with that now, no other way but forward. And I think that's the way that you have to think. All of that is in the rearview mirror. Again, it happened. It's real. I understand. I get it. But that doesn't mean that because it happened, that you have to let it control your day, your week, your month, your year, your decade. You don't. You don't. That's what your narcissistic abuser wants you to believe. They want you to believe that for the rest of your life, you are tethered to them. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, they kind of depend on the fact that you're going to stay emotionally tethered to them. You've got to break that emotional tether. Okay. So many of the things that I do, okay, is I acknowledge what happened. I acknowledge what happened to me. I do. It was a complete shit show, but it happened. So one of the things that we do here at the Now Movement, I create stuff, I do courses, I got a workshop coming up. What we do here is we find ways out. We find people that are ready to get out of the shit show. Okay, and that's the only thing that I can call it, because it is literally a shit show. So part of what I do, and that's why I wanted to get on this live, because I know that there's people out there that are tired of going into rooms where it's just like, okay, maybe this person, this creator can help me. And I'm not taking away from any creator. Maybe what's going on in their room can help me out here. But then you hear the same stories that you've actually lived. And you leave out of there feeling like, hey, that really didn't help. What should I do next? So yeah, I build stuff. I build courses, workshops, and in fact, if you send me your email, message me your email, not through the chat because it disappears as soon as I get off of it. But if you email me, I'll send you a free workbook, okay, and I'll send you more info about what I'm doing. But I think that's my purpose now. I constantly get up and I'm like, there's somebody out there that's tired of this, that is really looking for a solution. They're not looking to discuss the problem anymore. They're looking for a solution. And that's what I try to offer. And I think half of what I do online is trying to find those people that think about the solution, that wake up mornings and they may still be in a situationship and they wake up and I'm like, I know that I should leave. I know that I deserve better. I know that I should be someplace else, but they doubt themselves. And I'm not trying to shame people, and I'm not trying to place blame, because again, I've gone through this. You've got that hope and potential stuff going on in your head. You're thinking, hey, maybe by lunch they'll be different. They're raging out at me right now. I haven't even fully opened my eyes, but maybe by lunch they'll calm down. Maybe they got something on their mind. Maybe they don't understand what I'm saying to them. Maybe they don't understand how important this relationship is to me. So I'll give it one more chance instead of getting up saying, Okay, something is wrong. I feel it in my gut. I feel it in my very soul. What do I do next? See, that's always the question that we ask and then we ignore. We say, what do I need to do next? Do I need to, see who's still in my circle, who's still my day ones? Do I reach out to them? Do I go online and find out more information? Do I go see a therapist? We have all these choices, but by the time we get through brushing our teeth, we're looking at this person and we're saying, it's really not that bad. I can fix them. The thing that every empath since the beginning of time has said, I can fix them. Even though it's destroying me, I can fix them. Because the person that I saw in the beginning of this relationship, I need to get them back. And you know what? It is kind of selfish when you think about it. Because at some stage, again, I've gone through this, at some stage, you're more concerned with getting the person back that you met in the beginning, not to really fix them, but for you. And I understand that, but it's not helping. So, what do you do when you reach that stage? I call that the coming out of the fog. When you reach the stage where you realize that something is seriously wrong here. Hey, what's up, guys? Jose, Andy, iZombie, WD Whiting. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. What do you do when you have reached that stage where something is wrong? Well, that's what the Now movement is about. Finding ways to actually figure out your next move. But here's the funny part. This is what I've learned. Nobody can make the next move for you. Ain't that crazy? You've got to decide yourself. The narcissist isn't going to stop you. They're having too much enjoyment draining you dry. So they're not going to stop you. They're not going to say, "Hey, listen, you know what? I'm destroying your freaking life here. It's not fair to you. Yeah, I get some enjoyment from it, but I'm not going to torture you because when I do say that I love you, maybe I love you a little bit. So maybe you should go. You should find somebody that you deserve and that actually deserves you." The narcissist isn't going to do that. Okay, so the people around you, they don't see the version that you see. So they're not going to jump in because they see, yeah, and you help it along. When you're out in public, when you're at events, when you're at functions, you're more concerned, believe it or not, with protecting their mask. Even though by the time you get back in the car, you get back home, there's going to be another rage out because somebody paid attention to you, because you to them, you shined over them. Yeah. Yeah, it's coming. I'm not telling you something that you haven't experienced yet. What I'm telling you is that you have to start thinking that there's no other way but forward. And that's what this movement is built on. Helping people understand that as your boy said in that song, you've got options. It's not about, and I say this often to so many people, it's not about revenge. There's a lot of places you want revenge, you're not going to get it. They don't think like you. So you're not going to get revenge. Revenge doesn't work with them. It's just another form of supply. But there's a group right now, there's a live right now. If you want revenge, they're going to tell you how to get revenge. But see, I think it's only fair that I tell you the only way that you will truly get revenge is by living your best life ever, without trying to live your best life to show them. It is like, it's like what when they do during that time we was locked inside contactless. It is the easiest way. Becoming the best version of yourself. It sends a powerful message, not to them, but to you, that you respect your worth. You respect your peace. You respect your boundaries. You respect the person that you are becoming. Oh, it drives them crazy, but that's not your concern anymore. They wanted you to think it was your concern, but it never was. Not domestic narcissistic abusive relationships are the only relationships where one person is forced to be responsible for another person's emotions. Wait, let me change that. For another grown person's emotions. That's what domestic narcissism is. You have one person that's what walking on eggshells is you're trying to manage their emotions. You're trying to keep them from raging out. You're trying to ensure that they don't give you another silent treatment. You're trying to ensure that you are still seen within that household, that domicile, wherever you live at. You're trying to make sure that you're still being seen. So, in essence, you are literally making yourself the caretaker of their emotions. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's the way life is supposed to work. I don't think that's the way relationships are supposed to work. We take on so much responsibility with the narcissist that we forget ourselves. I think the only time that you should take on that much responsibility from another sentient being is when you have a child. Honestly. I think that's the only time that you should give 100. You got a baby, a newborn in the house. Hey, you really don't count. Everything is about that newborn. But there's a huge difference between a newborn and a full-grown adult, and it's destroying many of you. It almost destroyed me. Again, I've gone through this. It also destroyed me. I had to climb back from being so lost, understanding who I was, what I was capable of. I doubted myself. I'm going to tell you, I have no shame in saying that. I went from a person that didn't care what anybody thought. If it was something that I was going to do, if it was something I was going to do, I was going to go out there and do it. I didn't need anybody else to sign off on it. But by the end of that relationship, alarmingly, I'm asking this person for advice. A person that's done nothing. A person that I'm basically trying to teach table manners to. So yeah, we give up so much of ourselves, and we're not dealing with a newborn. So we have to we have to ask ourselves, it's like it's part of the mission. It's part of what the Now movement does. I think I have this down right here. The Now movement helps survivors break the trauma bond and trust themselves again. We choose truth over comfort, healing over revenge, solutions over outrage. That's what it's about. It's not some cult ish. It's not some, you're joining an army where we are the chosen ones and we're going to destroy these demons. It's not about that. See, I guess the trickle down effect is the more, and this is where the Church of Real Talk thing comes into. The trickle down effect is the more people that we are able to help out of suffering through a trauma bond, that's more people that can get back to being themselves. These are the creator. Empaths are creators. Empaths give back to the world. Empaths help the world heal. But if you can't trust yourself, you can't help anyone. So that's what we do. We've created a movement. I literally have a nonprofit, and this is like the most active arm of it. This is the most active arm of it. I mean, last Saturday I launched Now Media Radio. This is part of my master plan, to make positive radio. Okay, I don't know how do you do that. You just keep all the trap music out of it, but it's positive radio, and there's talk shows, and I didn't ask anybody. I didn't ask anybody for their permission. I just decided this is what the world needs. See, that's what empaths do, and that's what many of you have done most of your life. This is how we fix the problem. Empaths, by their very nature, are solution driven. But for some strange reason, after we have dealt with a narcissist, we become like them. We just want to discuss the problem. I mean, again, am I lying to you? Am I telling you something that you have not experienced? Okay, they are like the most Debbie Downer, Dan Downer people in the world. If there's a problem, they will literally discuss the problem a week from now. They're never going to sit down and figure out the solution. It's usually us that jump in and say, whoa, hold on, hold on. Okay, so we know what went wrong. We know why it broke. We knew this. We know that. Let's figure out how we're going to fix it. Because I haven't eaten in the last 3 days because I've been sitting up here with you discussing this problem. We are solution driven. And when we get caught up with these narcissists, we lose that. We lose our confidence because to be solution driven, you got to be kind of confident. You've got to be willing to take risks. Hey, listen, the spaceship, it's not working. Okay. It's supposed to be turning this way, it's turning that way. If we don't fix it, something's going to happen. Something is going to happen. I don't know what we're going to do, but something's going to happen. So somebody's over there and they're like, but you press that button, you press that button, and then finally the empath will turn around and say, listen, we got to try something. Because if we keep on arguing about this, we're not going back to Earth. If you don't do something about how you are feeling because your feelings are real, okay, what you experience is real. The disrespect was real. The isolation was real. The smear campaign was real. The discard was real. It happened. I'm never going to try to take that away from you. But you have to start using what people have been doing since the Middle Ages, or probably since Egyptian times, alchemy. You've got to find a way to turn that what can be considered into pain as a lesson. I'm not going to say pain becomes purpose. I've come to learn it doesn't become purpose. But you've got to be able to extract the pain, the purpose, well, the lesson from the pain. You've got to be able to extract because there's a lesson in everything. Everything, every hardship that you have gone through in life has given you a lesson. This is really no different. It's just that there's a psychological layer that's attached to it where the narcissist has your mind on tilt. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a way out of it. I've often said that if somebody would have asked me a year ago, would I, how do I see myself? Heal definitely wouldn't have been the word. I was a complete, utter freaking mess. I was. And it's not. It's like when I talk about the workshop, I tell people, yeah, we're going to be there for 3 hours, but I'm not going to tell you that you cured because it didn't take me 3 hours to get cured. I saw certain things that helped me, that taught me. Okay. I figured out some things on my own because I didn't trust anybody. I went back to living my life like an X-File, trust no one. So a lot of stuff I had to figure out on my own. And what I did was, see, this is the empath way. This is the empath way. I started making mini courses. I was like, yeah, this got me through. I understand this. So I made mini courses. I put them up on YouTube. I used to make like at least one a week, if not two a week. So I put those up. Then I said, after, doing lives on TikTok and figuring, I was like, hey, what's up, IB? What's up? What's up? Thank you for joining. And Cindy and Zahara and Babe, thank you for joining. I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry because I'm like trying to watch two screens and at the same time give you the information that I feel is important. Yeah, so I did that. Then I sat down and I made my first course. And that was nerve-wracking. That was nerve-wracking because it came to the point where, okay, you've been deep diving and stuff, you study this stuff. Well, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I will turn on my TV and I will put on a Carl Jung playlist. And as I work, as I do stuff for the nonprofit, as I'm making calls, that is playing in the background. So I actually, because I don't want to give people false information. I don't want to give people false hope. So long story short, it took me literally almost almost a year to where I could say, okay, I trust myself again. This person doesn't bother me, no matter what they do. I got kids with them, so they any excuse to get under my skin, they're gonna find. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, but it doesn't bother me anymore. Okay. And that's what I try to get people to. It's like they're not going to disappear. If they disappeared, the world would be a better place. If we woke up one morning and every narcissist karma caught up and said, you know what, you're causing too much havoc on this planet, you got to go. I need you out of here right now. And since that's not going to happen, the narcissist always feels that they have an attachment to you. They feel that you're tethered to them, and they feel that whenever they're bored, whenever they got nothing better to do, whenever they feel that they can bring you back as supply, they're going to reach out to you. But there has to come a stage where you become resilient to it. It doesn't bother you. And that's the stage where I realized that what, you're getting better. You're getting better at this. And the narcissist, every narcissist that I've had to deal with, because I've had three of them. Two I didn't understand. The last one was just Satan spawn. Um, it's like they're always going to try to find different ways to reel you back in. Because their very existence depends on the fact that they still have you trapped, and they still want to live rent free in your head. They do. That's just who they are. But as you become resilient, as you gain what I like to call shark skin, where it just doesn't bother you anymore, because it comes to a stage. I think when people are healed, you come to a stage that you will value your peace over everything else. You don't care what they're doing. It doesn't concern you. What concerns you is your peace. And in some cases, your purpose. You know, it's crazy because I was just sitting up there. I think I was doing one of the modules for the upcoming workshop on September 12th. And I'm sitting up there and I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? And it wasn't a bad thought. It wasn't like, damn, what do you do? You wake up in the morning, you talk about narcissistic abuse. I got company over, they start, mentioning stuff. Like I said, if you see something, say something. They start talking about stuff that's going on either with their family or maybe a past relationship. I'm jumping in real quick. Like, I'm not trying to judge anybody and I'm not trying to diagnose anyone, but that sounds strangely enough like narcissistic abuse. And then I'll go over to the laptop and I'll pull up DSM-5 for NPD and I'll be like, does any of this look familiar to you? So yeah, I believe in that see something, say something. But I was like, wow, I've gone from DJ, well known New York City DJ, to photographer, very good at it. Miss doing that, lost the eye. But literally lost the eye, I'm blind in this eye. But yeah, I've been writing books from, I think my first book was published in 2009. And now I just wake up and I'm like, how can I help somebody? That's all I care about. That's why I do the radio station. That's why I do the videos. That's why I do courses. That's why I do workshops. How can I help somebody? Because at the end of the day, if I go back and I, debrief my day and I go through my posts and I see certain comments, and I thank you guys because you guys, I don't have to comment to everybody because you guys are helping each other out. I love that. I love that. I'll go through the posts and every once in a while a post will jump out at me and I'll say, okay, this person is on their way. They understand this person is using radical acceptance. This person just doesn't care anymore. And I don't mean care anymore in a bad way, because breaking free from narcissistic abuse shouldn't make you into a cold person. It shouldn't make you into a heartless person. Again, that's what they want you to feel that you have to be. You don't have to be that way. Again, like I said, I used to do workshops when I first started this, And they actually helped me, I think, more than the people that I was giving the workshop to, healing through peaceful choices. Because I'm going to be honest, I had a lot of pent up anger. I did. I had been bamboozled. I had been tricked. This person had presented themselves as one thing, and then I found out at the end that they were not even close to what they presented themselves to be. So I had a lot of anger. But again, I go back to the front ranch. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't making me any better. And once again, instead of evicting this person out of my head, I was letting them live rent free. See, here's the formula that I've kind of come to. Um, the formula that I've come to is, for every amount of mental energy that you give the narcissist is whatever amount that you're not giving to yourself. Think about that. Do you think at what stage do you think that they deserve any more from you? After all that you've given, at what point do you think they deserve more, even a quantum amount more? When that energy you can actually take within yourself and heal yourself. And the energy doesn't have to be loud. It could be literally getting a good night's sleep. Believe it or not, it could literally be just getting a good night's sleep. It could literally being, sitting down and watching your favorite sitcom and laughing without one ear, like a cat, making sure that they're not about to rage out. Looking at the door to make sure that they're not going to come in and interrupt your peace. That's how you utilize that energy. And that's what I try to show people how to do. And I'm never going to tell anybody that it's easy. When my sons were growing up, I used to tell them this all the time because my grandfather used to tell it to me. Anything worth having is not going to be super easy. You're going to have to put some work into it. You are. You're going to have to decide that, hey, this is what I want. Nothing that you did in this life that you really wanted to do ever really came easy. Honestly, it didn't. Everything has, for some strange reason, everything in this reality, everything in this universe has a price tag attached to it. And maybe that's not a bad thing, because when you earn something, it's like when if you have a day job or if you have a business and you look and you see what you made at the end of the week, deep down inside that you earned that. You know that you deserve that. In fact, many a time you think that you're probably right, but you think that you deserve more. That's how healing is. As you reach each level, you're like, yeah, I deserve this. I deserve this peace. I deserve to rest. I deserve to have a good time. I deserve to trust myself again. You are allowed that because you earned it. When you take those steps towards your healing journey, when you finally just sit down and decide, you know what, enough. I have had enough. And you say, hey, listen, this Minister Robinson, that person is saying, hey, these are the steps that I need to take. Let me go ahead and take the first step. And that's what it takes. I'm not going to say take my workshop as the first step. I'm not. I'd like for you to do that, but you don't have to. You don't have to. But you have to take one action. Because if you don't take action, I'm going to tell you what happens is, if you don't take action towards your healing, and I'm not trying to shame anybody and I'm not trying to tell anybody that they're doing anything wrong, but the honest truth is, if you don't make that one decision and then take action, it's not going to happen. But it may not happen as fast as you want it to, because as I've learned, this journey sometimes takes baby steps. Before you get to that point where you fully and completely trust yourself again, like you used to before you met that narcissist, before you get to that point, You know, you've got to put in some work. And maybe the workshop is the way to put in that work. You know, I mean, this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. I'm just trying to tell you what you get. Okay. So you're going to get one of my better selling books on Amazon. You go look it up, Break the Trauma Bond in 7 Steps. Okay. It's a 3 hour interactive workshop. However, I can only have 50 people there because I don't have the brain capacity to manage more than 50 people, as I've been told. Okay, so I locked it down to 50 people. You get lifelong access to Real Talk in a Circle. And the reason being is because I want you to continue your journey. I don't want you to get out the workshop and then say, what's next? Okay, so there's a whole community, there's courses, there's all of this stuff in there. There's other ebooks in there, there's other tools to help you, you know, and you get things you we're gonna actually literally sit down and treat this like an interactive classroom on Zoom. Okay, for 3 hours. We're gonna have breakout sessions. We're going to, discuss, we're gonna hold each other accountable. Okay, we're going to hold each other accountable because, at the end of the day, if you're there because you're going through narcissistic abuse, I'm going to tell you, we all experience the same thing. Like I said, it's just a different face on a demon, but we all experience the same thing. So it shouldn't be one of those things where like, oh, well, my narcissist is kind of different and this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, there's different I guess flavors of narcissist, but NPD still has the same, 5 out of 9. So I want us to be in there and I want us to work through this. Part of what I do, and I think one of the huge driving forces in everything that I do is that half of the stuff that I've built, I couldn't find. I couldn't find when it came to things like learning, the difference between no contact and controlled access, when to use it, when not to use it. I really didn't know. Everybody online would just say, go no contact, go no contact. You're never going to heal unless you go no contact. But what if you got kids with them? How does no contact work out for you? How do you get through that? You know, what if you got a business with them? Like many of us did. I tried to start a business because I thought it would help them. But what if you got a business with them? How do you go no contact? So I had to learn that there was a flip side to no contact. It was called controlled access. The best thing ever that I learned. But then I said to myself, well, it took me this long to learn this. Maybe there's somebody else that doesn't know about this. So I created a whole course on no contact versus controlled access. It's free for any member inside of Real Talk in a Circle. You know, I have learned so much along the way, and I tend to want to share it with everyone. I got a nonprofit, so yeah, some of it does have a price tag on it. But believe it or not, the stuff that's inside Real Talk in a Circle, it's available. I didn't set up tiers or nothing. I didn't say before you can look at this course, you've got to be at this tier. No, if you're in there, you're looking for help. You're looking for help. So no, I'm not. If you're inside of Real Talk in a Circle, that tells me, hey, listen, I'm ready to heal. I'm looking for a way out of the shit show. I'm looking at a way to trust myself again. I'm going to give you the tools. Now, this workshop is different because it spans. It spans. It spans. I'm trying to reach people that I haven't been able to reach. Again, it's part of this thing about building a tribe. Okay, a community of like-minded people. I think that's why we all get on social media because we're looking for those people that resonate with us. This is our tribe. We like the same thing. We like the same sneakers. We like the same clothes. I just want to find a tribe that says we like healing. See, that works for me. That really works for me, And back to the radio station, it's like I couldn't make it clearer, but a lot of people thought that that was kind of a boundary that could be crossed. No, I don't want revenge stuff on the station. So now I gotta have another soft relaunch. I gotta redo the page. I gotta, put the shows up and everything else because people don't understand. This is important. People can turn into any place and listen to rage content, hate content. I hate this person. This person is a pain in the ass. This, that, and up. You can do that all day long. I want something different. I want something that's solution driven. That people are going to walk away after listening feeling better than when they tuned in. That's what I want. So yeah, even though I like hip hop, I'm a big Wu fan. The Wu doesn't fit on the station. They don't. I love the Wu. Ghost and Meth, my favorites, but they don't belong in the station. You know, I probably interview Ghost. Yeah, maybe one day I'll interview Ghost. But the point that I'm trying to make is, excuse me. The point that I'm trying to make is what we are building here with the Now movement is more than just a slogan. It's a mindset. And I think it's a wonderful mindset. I think it's a beautiful mindset when we look at those words. No other way. Okay, that locks it in, but forward. I think that's what happens so much in domestic narcissistic abusive relationships is I think that's where we start to notice the erosion of boundaries because we don't say there's no other way. No, this is a hard boundary. There's a hard line in the sand. You can't cross this. Yeah, I view this as being disrespect. So no, you can't cross this boundary. You can't cross this line. Because we didn't put in our minds no other way. We don't. We never deal with the narcissist, and this is part of healing because a lot of people I know I had to stop myself because I was saying sorry for shit that wasn't my fault. I was saying sorry for everything. If a person misunderstood me, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Because this is the rewiring that we went through when we were inside of that domestic narcissistic abusive relationship. And then one day I caught myself. I'm like, why the hell are you always saying sorry? Because I had literally spent out of 8 years, 7 years, basically saying sorry for shit that wasn't my fault. Always people pleasing, always apologizing. These I can guarantee that most of you that have found themselves needing to get out of a domestic narcissistic relationship can almost guarantee that wasn't the way you were built. But through the years, instead of saying no other way, and I'm not shaming you for that because I didn't do it, no other way. We have to come into, I guess, a combined mindset of we are going to heal. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one that's bringing something to the table. That's why I'm trying to build this community. That's why I'm trying to build this tribe is because I know for a fact I'm not the only one that brings something to the table. There are many people out there, many people that probably know stuff that I don't know. But you need to, I can't tell you what you need to do, but I think it's best if you could share that. Share that with a community. Share that with the tribe. There has been no tribe in early history that survived by everybody doing their own thing. Hasn't. you know and a tribe, you've got the chief, and you've got the medicine person, and you got the person that's really really good at farming, and you got the one that's good at cooking, and you got the one that's good at hunting, but none of them think that they are above the tribe. The whole goal is to keep the tribe, to keep the community together, to help the community survive. So we have a community of empaths that have healed. We have a community of empaths that are trying to heal, and then we have a community of empaths that are still trapped. Don't you think the tribe should come together to help those that are trapped? I put up a video last week. If you see something, say something. It's not just for city infrastructure. It's for real life. If you've healed, you know what the narcissist is. It's like that movie Them. It's like you put on your glasses, you see them. You listen to them talk, you hear them. But many of us don't go out there. We don't pull people's coats. And yes, there's a tactful way without getting into the middle of the relationship. To say, give them a book. Send them a link to a freaking video or something. Let them know that, hey, listen, no matter what's going on in your life, me and you are still cool. We can always sit down and talk. I think that's what a community does. That's what a tribe does. Because like I said, when I first started this, nobody is really going to come to our rescue. They're not. We have to, as empaths, we have to support each other at some stage. Part of what I'm starting to see now is I go on social media and you've got narcissists giving advice on how to deal with narcissists. You know what? I don't know what to say about that. I really don't know what to say about that. But, as empaths, we have to be there for each other. I don't do one-on-ones. I don't, because I've come to the point that I noticed the few times that I did do them, I noticed that it became something that I felt drained from, because since it's their time and they pay for the time, if they want to trauma dump on me, then they feel that they have the right to, and I'm trying to constantly push them towards a solution. So like a lot of calls, I end up saying, maybe you should seek out a mental health professional. There's no shame in that. Maybe you should go sit down and talk to a therapist. Or I'm giving them the 988 number. Give them a call, tell them what you're going through. Maybe they'll be able to connect you with someone. But back to where I started this from, this is why I do this. I didn't think that I would be doing this a year later. 2 years ago, you would have asked me. I actually, the other night, I went down through, I saw the transformation because I've been on TikTok for a while, and I saw the transformation. I saw when I started to notice what was going on in my life just by the post. I saw when I became angry just by the post. I could see when I was bleeding out, and I could see gradually as I started to heal. I could literally see where and at what parts I was starting to heal just by what I was sharing online, just by what I was doing, as far as social media is concerned. The Now movement, I mean, yes, main arm of Church of Real Talk, a New Jersey nonprofit. It is. Okay. But it serves a purpose. It gives value. It allows me to be of assistance. It allows me to help others. And I see nothing wrong with that. And I'm not ashamed that, damn, maybe I need to get another hobby. Not really. Not really. I think this helps others. This helps others see what they can't see. I think I made a video beginning of the week or last week where basically I said that the reason why we should, if we see something, say something, is because, as we know, when a person is in the beginning stages of love bombing, we might see that they're dealing with a narcissist. We might see that this person is completely fake, but we don't say anything, and that is, I think that is a defining point. I mean, due to what I've studied, my research, I found out that the narcissist will actually leave you alone. If they can't get you locked into the love bombing stage, if they can't get you trapped via the love bombing where you walk away thinking you've met your soulmate, they'll give up. They'll go find another victim. But they try a little bit harder with empaths because they know that empaths is like the supply that keeps on giving. So yeah, I mean, That's why I do what I do, because maybe somebody will see one of my videos and say, maybe I was thinking that, but why not? Maybe someone will go in the comments and say, damn, there's a whole lot of people talking about this, and they all seem to be agreeing with each other, but I'm going through this too, and maybe that might help somebody out. Maybe that might help somebody see that their worth is more than this person, because I think what we do with narcissistic relationships is, while we're trying to fix the person, we're saying that, in a sense, we're saying to ourselves that, let me take a back seat to who I am and work on fixing this person. Again, not to shame you, this is done with all intents of selfishness. Okay, you're not trying to. There comes a stage near the end where you're not trying to fix the person. You're just dead set on getting the person back that you saw in the beginning. And that's a job within itself, because you'll just keep on going back and back and back. Um, but yeah, so what I think I really need to say is, if you come to the workshop, that would be great. That would be awesome. That is September 12th. It's a Saturday from 2 to 5 p.m. I'm actually working without telling my therapist what I was doing completely. I was asking them questions to help me build the GPT. But anyway, yeah, so it's not meant to replace it, but sometimes we have to use the tools that are available to us. And a lot of times survivors, due to the whole isolation thing. Why was my connection interrupted? I hate when it does that. Hold on one second. I look over and I'm seeing a blank damn screen. I hate that. Okay, so something broke over here. Okay, it happens. Lost reconnecting. Okay, I don't know what the hell it's doing, but we're not going to worry about that. We got you over here. So, with that being said, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. You guys, I'm going to clip this up later and put it up, but you guys, if you want the free workbook, just workbook, not the workbook. If you want the free workbook, just do me a favor and send me email to churchforthechosen@gmail.com. The four is the number four. Um, I think it's in my bio, or send me an instant message. It's fine. Direct message is fine. And I'll send you that, and I'll send you information on the workshop. That's September 12th. I'm thinking about doing the AI workshop for September 26th. And what I want you guys to do, there's questions that sometimes you have to ask yourself. And I wrote these down. So you always have to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Ask yourself what happened. You have to ask yourself how it is affecting you now. Um, what part is within your control? And most importantly, what is one action that you can take to move your life forward? And one action, not 10, not 20, not a vision board, not 1,000 things written down in your journal, just one thing. Because if you start the one thing, what happens is, and this This is important. I know it says if you start the one thing and you get through it, you'll automatically start another thing, and then you'll get through that, and so on and so forth. And before you know it, you are on the road to healing. You know, I want to thank all of you that have joined me. I want to thank all of you that have stuck around. Um, like I said, my goal with the Now movement is to help others heal, to help others become the best version of themselves, because the world needs as many empaths as they can get right now, as you can see. So with that being said, Mr. Robinson, founder of the Now movement, no other way but forward. Hopefully I see you at your work at the workshop. If you've got questions, if I can be of assistance, go ahead and send me a direct message. With that being said, love you guys. Have a great night, everyone. And there it goes. And yes, I said end live. Thank you.